today's talk to my wife. It's her birthday tonight. Very, very, very gebenchte good year. And gesund. And nachas, good health. And today's days we give the bracha of Chaim Nitzchiyim, eternal life. Also to a dear friends of ours in Los Angeles, Yankel and Esther Ginsberg, upon their anniversary, which was Gimel Tamuz the Shabbos, Mazel Tov, so lange gesunte Jahren. Thank you.
Almost.
I don't have to do over again the dedication. You have it. Okay. A week ago, Monday, literally a week ago, Monday, late afternoon, evening, not afternoon, as the last bits of light were disappearing in the sky in New York, and perhaps in Hasidic shuls outside of Chabad, in Bobiv, in Borough Park, or in Satmar or Williamsburg, there were still many minyanim davening in Mincha. A meeting was taking place across the world, completely on the other side of the world, in Singapore, between two people. Pretty short meeting for about 45 minutes. The current president of the United States, Donald Trump, and someone who has been a menace to the world for many, many years, someone who wreaked havoc and brought unmeasurable pain and suffering on a people, on his very own people. Someone who was threatening the very stability of the world, sat together for 45 minutes in a meeting. When they came out, they were all smiles. They sat down. It was filmed. You can see pictures. They signed the document of denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. A couple of months ago, maybe just 3 months ago exactly, it was unthinkable. 4 months ago, this is fresh in our minds. It seemed like we were heading to the brink of nuclear war. These two leaders were at each other very disrespectfully, saying things, provocative things. My button is larger than yours and it actually works. Little rocket man. And then on the other end, you're a retard, and so on and so forth. And this was going back and forth. And suddenly, out of nowhere, this meeting happened, the document was signed. And the world is much safer today than it was a week ago. Of course, there's still a lot of business to do to complete that which they began then, but something of historic significance took place. Now, what concerns me and what should concern us all, first of all, we're much safer today. I mean, he was threatening and he was capable. And we don't know exactly his capabilities. No one knows. But his threats, and he was a maniac, or is a maniac. And even when there was a threat, let's say, from the Soviet Union, at least they had some kind of sense of responsibility. But this guy is a madman. And yet, we can't explain why. Well, maybe, of course, maybe it was the tremendous economic pressure. Maybe President Trump's aggressive style is the only language that is understood by people like him. But obviously, we know that the Eibishter runs the world. And everything is bashgacha pratis. And to us, we look at the date, and that's why I mentioned, there was still a tiny little bit of light in the sky here in New York. It was 9:15. But what was the day? Chav Ches Sivan. Zechor Yamois Olam. Remember the days of the past. We think about the past. Chav Ches Sivan. And right away it excites a Chabad Chassid. What is Chav Ches Sivan? Chav Ches Sivan is the date that our Rebbe with his Rebbetzin, the Rebbe emphasizes all the time, Ish Ubeisai, came to the United States of America, were rescued from the burning hell of Europe, came across to America. That's, of course, a big simcha for us. We have a Rebbe. But the Rebbe spoke about this significance of the day the last time we heard the Rebbe speaking on Chav Ches Sivan, in 1991. And the Rebbe gave this amazing sikha that we just didn't understand what he's talking about at the time that he was talking about it. The Rebbe at that time spoke that the idea of the day, Chav Ches Sivan, means koyach. Koyach means the power of Sivan. What's Sivan? Sivan is the month of Matan Torah. What's Matan Torah? Matan Torah means the Torah comes down to the world, and what does it do? It unifies heaven and earth. It unifies God and the creation. It harmonizes. It brings unity to a broken, fragmented world. Torah comes to bring peace in the world by revealing the intrinsic oneness at the core of creation, the unity, how everything is created by Hashem. That's the purpose of Matan Torah, b'chodesh hashlishi, because number 3 is the number that unifies, brings opposites together, makes shalom between two extremes. The 3rd month, koyach sivan, means the real koyach of Matan Torah. And the Rebbe goes on to say that koyach sivan is related to him coming to America. The Rebbe arriving to America on Koyach Sivan has huge significance because this completes and reveals and actualizes the ultimate purpose for why the Torah was given. To do what? To harmonize and unify the world with Hashem. And when is the world unified with Hashem? After the Rebbe comes to America and makes the United States the seat of all of the Chabad operations, in which there is a tremendous ufaratsta that spreads around the entire world, reaches every corner of the globe, and reveals Elokus everywhere. The Rebbe goes on to explain that in Matan Torah itself, it's the Matan Torah of 3,500 years ago. But Torah reveals itself in stages, even though the Torah is only given once. But its revelation is in stages. That means that the Torah as we read it is the external, the surface of the Torah. The secrets of the Torah are revealed step by step. And its ultimate revelation is going to be when Moshiach will come, when Torah Chadasha Me'iti Teitze, when the new Torah is going to come, issue forth from Hashem. It's the same Torah, but Hashem is going to reveal such novelty, such deep, such depth, such infinite wisdom and insight into those very same aleph bays, into those very same psukim that we read. But the Rebbe says the beginning of that futuristic revelation is related to the Baal Shem Tov, and then after that, Yutes Kislev, where the Baal Shem Tov revealed the innermost of the Torah, the deepest Pnimius HaTorah, Chassidus, which is already Torah Shel Moshiach. And then as a result of the Baal Shem Tov, it moves to the Alter Rebbe, The Alter Rebbe takes the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov that are not comprehensible by the mind. We can't understand them. The teachings of the Baal Shem Tov were pure alakus, purely divine, and therefore infinite. And the human mind that is finite, by its very definition, could not wrap itself around these powerful truths. And here is where the Alter Rebbe did the impossible. He was the agent of God to enable that unification of this infinite light of Chasidus, the light of Moshiach, to begin permeating the world. And that's, the Rebbe says, is the secret, Yutes Kislev. And the Rebbe says when this new greater light and deeper elements of the Torah come to the world, it brings a much deeper harmony in creation, more than a Matan Torah. Because Matan Torah is only at least what we experienced 3,500 years ago, is the revealed part of the Torah. But once we uncover the inner power of the Torah that's related to the inner soul of the Torah, when we get to its inner, the inside of it, the power of making shalom, the power of making peace, the power of harmonizing is so much stronger and it's so much greater, to the point the Rebbe says as follows. This world, initially, before we apply the Torah to the world, has a lot of hostile forces. The Alter Rebbe characterizes in the name of the Arizal this world, that this world is mole klipois v'sitra achra. It's filled with forces that oppose Hashem's truth, that block and conceal. Urishoyim goyvrim boy, and the wicked prevail. It's a very, very dangerous world. Torah comes into the world, and what does Torah do? It changes it. But the way the Torah deals with the world initially is it does battle. It goes out to war, like we see in the Midbar. Vayibin Esaya Ha'arayin, the Arayin traveled. Vayomer Moshe said, Kuma Hashem vayafutzu ayvecha, may your enemies be blasted. So the Torah fights, as it says, that the Arayin went ahead of the Jewish people and it killed the snakes and the scorpions. The snakes and the scorpions represent all forces of evil. So we have to wage war, we have to battle all these monsters in the world. The Rebbe says the Chiddush of Chasidus, the Chiddush of the Alter Rebbe, the Chiddush of Pnimiyus HaTorah, Pada b'shalom nafshi. My soul is redeemed in peace. You don't have to fight. And magically what happens is that even those that are the greatest enemies, even those that stand in the total antithetical to holiness, including the most wicked people in the world, when Moshiach will come, Hashem is going to convert the nations. And many nations are going to be converted. The Rebbe uses the words, just to read, to quote. And they remember, this is Chav Ches Sivan, is when the Rebbe is saying this. This is in Chav Ches Sivan. In this sefer, I have it on page 266. Pada b'shalim nafshi. Sha'apediyah v'aga'ula, that the redemption comes in a manner of peace. B'li milchama klal, without a war. Take a look outside of Chabad. Today's days, everybody is talking about the Moshiach. It's no more only Lubavitch. Lubavitch should be talking much more about the Moshiach. But others speak about Moshiach. But listen to the videos that are given out by certain rabbis. They speak about wars and Armageddon and millions of people being killed. And if you don't do tshuva, chas v'shalom, this is going to happen. Fire and brimstone. The Rebbe? No war at all. Valderech kefi shahaya b'yimei Shloima, like it was in the days of Shloima HaMelech. Shekol ha'umois hizbatlu legabe Shloima. When Shloima HaMelech, who represented God's kingdom, the ultimate of the Eibishter's Malchus, he didn't have to fight like his father David. Everybody made peace with him. And they helped him. And therefore the Rebbe says, therefore, the same happens on Yutes Kislev, Asher elu asher b'hoyo ba'ovar menagdim, those that were in the past, opposition, nasim oyavim gemurim, become best friends. Now take those pictures of Kim Jong-un walking out with Donald Trump. I read in the news today, I caught a little snippet. Trump gave him his private cell phone number. And he said, whenever you need something, hey buddy, you want a little ride in my limousine? Come, I'll take you. Unbelievable. Nasim oyavim gemurim, a complete turnover. Chav Chesivan. Okay, you might say, okay, good Rabbi Wolf, that was a good catch. Okay, fine, but there's a, who says? First of all, as I said earlier, there's no coincidence. But let's take a look at some other events that happened. I don't know what to say these days. We are watching wave after wave of powerful, godly miracles that are happening for the benefit of the Jewish people. And these waves are crashing up on the shore. And they don't stop. They're coming with enormous speed, dafka this year. So let's go back. And let's try to look a little bit at some of these events and see when these dates and things happen. Not always, sometimes it's in the dates, sometimes it's in other details in the events, in which they don't only point to Moshiach and the arrival of the Geula, but they also point to who is behind that power of Geula in the world. By the way, just one thing I had forgot, I missed mentioning. The Rebbe says, what's the main power of Chav Chesivan? It's because the place in the world that was the most hostile to Kedusha was the lower half of the globe. Because the upper half of the globe was impacted by Matan Torah. But the United States of America was the coldest, indifferent. And therefore we know that when Jews came from Europe, everybody said, America is a treif in the Medina. America is a non-kosher country. You can't be the old Jew you were then. Jews dropped and threw their tefillin bags in the New York harbor as they were coming in from Ellis Island. People said over here, you don't keep Shabbos. Well, no matter what all your Mesiras Nefesh you had in Russia against the Cossacks, against who, that doesn't work. Here it's a whole different story. It's a modern world. It's a sophisticated world. No one is interested. And the Rebbe says, that's the whole Chiddush. That the Rebbe comes to America, and not only does he transform through his shluchim the entire country, but he actually transforms the entire world, that it becomes a power of spreading Yiddishkeit and Afatas Hamayonis dafka from the United States. And the Rebbe says, where does it really all coming from? It's the power, the Rebbe says, of Moshiach Tzidkenu. Because Moshiach is called, his grandfather, when he's born, is Peretz. Peretz means blasting. Ufaratzta. Ufaratzta, Hashem tells Yaakov Avinu, Ufaratzta Yom Avkedma. Your truth has become the truth of the entire world, to the west, to the east. Tzafoyna v'negma. And that, of course, becomes Chabad's. That's the song. When I grew up in Borough Park, and I'm looking at the Lubavitchers, to me, all look like weirdos. But what do I know about the Lubavitchers? Ufaratzta, Ufaratzta. Chabad is Ufaratzta. We're going to blast. We're going to break down all the borders. And the Rebbe says Paratzta represents the infinite light of Moshiach, God's truth, uninhibited, unblocked. And the Rebbe says it's Gematria 770. Paratzta 770. Because Chav Chesivan, the Rebbe comes to America, the Friediger Rebbe first, and then they settle in 770. And the Rebbe says that 770 is a significant number because it lines up the number 7. 7 represents creation. Time and space is 7. There are 7 directions, 6 directions, and the center. There are 7 days of the week. There are 7 colors in the rainbow. There are 7 notes of music. Everything is 7 because it all originates of Hashem's 7 emotions that Hashem creates the world. 770 represents the ultimate purification of the world and permeating every aspect of the world with godliness. That's 770. And isn't it interesting? Last week, Monday night, was 77 years since the Rebbe came to America. 77 years. And went across the world, in Singapore, 2 people meet, Lasoy Shalom Ba'olam, to make peace in the world. Let's go back a little bit. What happened a little bit? We're going to work our way backwards, because we're going to go from what is fresh in our minds that just happened, and then we're going to work our way going back. The other stunning event that just happened recently was Erev Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Chodesh Sivan, again, it's coming to the world. Sivan is the month of Matan Torah. And where does Torah come out from? Where does Torah, what is it? The Rebbe says 770, which is really connected, Ki Mitzia in Teitzei Torah, Udvar Hashem, Yerushalayim, very, very soon, as 770 moves to Yerushalayim, together with the third Beis HaMikdash, as the Rebbe says. People don't realize what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe said that the third Beis HaMikdash is going to come down in 770. Sounds radical. Some Lubavitchers are embarrassed to say it. They don't know what to do with it. But the Rebbe said this, that Moshiach, the third Beis HaMikdash is going to come down in 770, from there it's going to go to Eretz Yisrael. But in any case, Ki Mitzia in Teitzei Torah, Dvar Hashem Yerushalayim, Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, the hearts and the cries of the Jewish people, Lashana Abba Yerushalayim, how many tears, how great were the hopes for thousands of years for Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim, what does it say? We say in the Yom Kippur by Ne'ilah, we say, Eskara Elokim ve'amoya, I remember God, and I moan and I cry, but when I see all the cities in the world are honored, they're all standing powerful and strong. When I see the skyscrapers of New York, the Eiffel Tower in Paris, when I see London, when I see all these the Ir Elokim, the godly city Mishupeles, is cast down, is lowly, is stepped upon, is spat upon. And we cry. And suddenly, Erev Chodesh Sivan, we have the opening of the U.S. Embassy in Yerushalayim. The leading nation in the world recognizes Yerushalayim as the era, as the capital that belongs to the Jewish people. That's huge, especially when we take into consideration that whatever happens down here below is really connected. You learn a little Chassidus, you don't even have to learn Chassidus for that, even from the Gemara and the like, is connected to the ministering angels above, the Sodom Lamaila. The fact that down here it's admitted that belongs to the Jewish people, and we know that many other embassies are going to follow. Even Russia this week, even though they didn't say they're moving their embassy, made their event, their Russian event, I don't know exactly they made it in Jerusalem instead of in Tel Aviv for the first time. That Russia is already, the cracks is following. And I'm not going to be surprised if the announcement that they will move the embassy to Jerusalem is not too far off. And there's Guatemala, and there's the Czechoslovakia, and then there's this one and that one. And it's happening once the door broke open. And why is this so important? Yerushalayim. When Moshiach is going to come, where do you think is going to be the hub of all of humanity? What is going to be the ultimate tourist site? Where are going to be people coming? And it's amazing. They're building a bigger airport now in Eretz Yisrael. Because Ben Gurion cannot handle the tourists that are coming. Can you imagine? Once Moshiach Tzidkenu is going to be openly revealed and he's going to be in Yerushalayim, and all of the humanity is going to come learn by him, study and take from his wisdom. Ki Mitzia in Teitzei Torah, of course your embassy has to be in Yerushalayim. But let's take a look at that event itself. Two things I would like to point out. Number one, there was a rabbi that was honored to speak. That rabbi, when he's speaking, he's not a Reform rabbi. You know, today already, Reform is already a high level. There's already a whole bunch of levels. I don't even know. I tilt my hat to the shluchim. I am working with more Frume Yidden in Los Angeles. I don't have to deal with what shluchim have to deal with across the world. But it wasn't a Reform rabbi. It wasn't a conservative rabbi. It wasn't an Orthodox rabbi. It wasn't a young Israel rabbi. It wasn't an Agudas Yisrael rabbi. It was Rabbi Velovik, a Chabad Shliach. And who does he speak about? Who does he mention? The Lubavitcher Rebbe has to be mentioned at that event. And then you have two ministers, and they speak. And what's the content of their speech? What are they saying? They're saying one word, hallelujah. That's what they're saying. Praise God for the miracles he's done for the Jewish people. for what he's done for the Jewish people, saved them, brought back. They said they wouldn't have believed this day would come. And when does this all happen? You know, Chabad Chassidim, we say every year, we say Tehillim every day, we say for our own birthday, and also the Rebbe's kapitel. And this year, we're all enjoying the fact that the Rebbe is not burdening us too much. The Rebbe gave us a kleinchike kapitel, but you know what's beautiful about this kapitel? David HaMelech kriegt nicht daher und dahin, he's not creeping here and there. He gets straight to the point. Hallelujah Hashem kol goyim, shabchuhu kol ha'umim, let all the nations ki govar aleinu chastoi. That the Eibishter has intensified his kindness upon the Jewish people, the Rebbe's kapitel. And as soon as all Chassidim start saying, Hallelujah Hashem kol goyim, ki govar aleinu chastoi, listen to the speeches of the ministers. Listen to the way Hallelujah Hashem kol goyim shabchuhu kol ha'umim. Unbelievable. Coincidence? Oh, now it's already two things, right? Let's go back. What happened just a week after that? Again, I'm not don't remember the exact date of this, and was the pulling out of that horrific, threatening something, a gezeda, a decree, that was looming upon Chas v'Shalom Hayalati on the Jewish people, to God forbid bring about Chas v'Shalom, another Holocaust. The Iranians say clearly what their intentions are. They want, they wish, they hope, and they plan on doing it. And they say one day they're going to do it. They're going to obliterate Israel from the face of the earth. With what? With nuclear weapons. They say they're going to do it. And the world has never really been too big of a fan of the Jewish people. Gathered together just a couple of years ago in 2015, what is it now, 3 years ago, and allowed this to happen. Signed a nuclear agreement with Iran, which we know is utterly ridiculous. It was insane. It didn't demand of them to completely obliterate and to erase their weapons. It pushed it off for 7 years. And what? During that time, we're going to give you billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. To do what? Chas v'shalom hayaloitia. So Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Jacobson, I heard a clip of his, a little video in which he speaks about this event. And he mentions that one of the Jewish activists met with the previous president, President Obama. And he met with him in the White House. And in their conversation, he asked him, he said, you know, how can you let this happen? This is threatening the safety of so many Jews. So Obama said, don't worry, we have you covered, we'll have your back. If Iran strikes, we are going to strike back. Don't worry, you can rely on us. So he said to him, but I don't understand, the first strike, God forbid, can kill 800,000 Jews. So he shrugged his shoulders. He was okay, chas v'shalom, with something like that. So this was, and again, we lost 6 million Jews back just 70 years ago. And here, again, a threat to 6 million Jews. The world went along with it, like it says in the Megillah, Vayaser HaMelech es tabatoi, the king removed his in Persia, he removed his signet ring, Vayitna lo Haman, and he gave it a Haman in order to do with him. Do with the Jewish people whatever you want. And also verification, even during the 7 years. We're inspecting everywhere besides military sites. Does that make any sense? Military, where are you going to build a nuclear bomb if not on a military site? Oh no, we're inspecting everywhere. It's such sheker, it was such lies, and it was so clear it was lies. Now, against tremendous international pressure, because all of them, President Macron from France came to speak to Trump just a few days before to please beg of him not to pull out of this deal. And so on, everybody begged him. And he, again, we say, is he a friend of the Jews, but can we just explain it that way, or is it something deeper going on? stubbornly decides, no, I am pulling out. And unbelievable, the miracle that just happened. I mean, Baruch Hashem, sometimes we don't, because we didn't see Chas v'Shalom the consequence, so we don't realize sometimes the Yeshua Gedailah, but God literally saved us, saved the whole world, saved the Jewish people. Incredible miracle just happened. And that was, again, a week before. Now let's go back a little earlier, just a week before that. The stunning revelation. When oh, by the way, we wonder, what does this have to do with the Rebbe? Because it's interesting. Bibi Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, came to the United States many, many times. He stood ferociously, he stood with tremendous amount of guts in the U.S. Congress and spoke strongly about the danger, chas v'sholem, of what can happen. Then he spoke in the UN about the danger of what can happen. And in one of those talks in the UN, when he's talking to all these choleres, all these people, group of anti-Semites, their biggest joy is to squeeze and harm Israel, harm the Jewish people. He stood there and he quoted the Rebbe talking to him. Now he didn't quote Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He didn't quote, maybe he did quote another time Maimonides, didn't quote the Rambam, didn't quote the Baal Shem Tov, didn't quote Rabbi Akiva Eger or the Rogatchover. He quoted the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And he said that the Rebbe told him that you will go into a house full of darkness, a house full of lies. But don't be afraid. All it takes is to light a candle of truth. A candle, one little bit of light dispels a lot of darkness. Tremendous courage. But who is he speaking? He's speaking and mentioning the Rebbe. Unbelievable. Coincidence? Let's go back. Talking about Bibi Netanyahu, a week before that, Netanyahu stood up in front of the whole world with a stunning theatrical display. He said he wants to reveal something, and everybody came, the news reporters, and it was watched all across the world. And he discussed the unbelievable find that the Israeli, the Shin Bet, were able to go in, the Secret Service, into Iran and to pull out a treasure trove of evidence for everybody to see the lies. And he's displayed it for everybody to see. It was unbelievable. We don't know yet, because the Israeli intelligence will not tell us the tremendous what happened and how they did it. We will find out one day when it won't be any more dangerous, hopefully very soon. But the experts all say that this miracle, what happened over here, is on par with Entebbe. And the unbelievable feat for this to happen. And in addition to that, it raised the kavod of the Israeli intelligence, which is important. The world has to respect the Jew in every aspect. The anti-Semite, for him, doesn't have to mean if he's a Zionist, a non-Zionist. This is not the thing. He has to know what the Jew is. And the previous administration completely belittled Israeli intelligence. Made it like as if it's nothing. And here for the whole world to see. And we know that based on that, I don't know to say that was the full, what brought about the saving, the big miracle that happened. To say it was the only thing, but it definitely added tremendous legitimacy for the president a week later to be able to say to the whole world, you see clearly, even said it, that you see that they're a bunch of liars. Let's go back a little bit. Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parsha Shmini. Another date on the Chabad calendar. Chav Ches Nisan. The United States, together with Britain and France, launch a strike right in the border of Eretz Yisrael, hitting targets of chemical weapons. Assad decided, again a wicked person, someone such an achzer, so cruel, so despicable, who has a heartless being to kill and poison indiscriminately little children. And the previous administration, of course, gave warnings and red lines and all kinds of things, and Allah and Cup, nothing happened. But President Trump did act decisively, and gave them a serious blow. Now, did he take out all of their chemical weapons abilities? I don't know. But he definitely eliminated tremendous, but also more than that, he gave them he gave the Hezbollah and Iran and all of them a big warning. I mean business. And it's Nishka Hefgewelt, you can't just do whatever you want. But again, let's take a look at the calendar. When did that happen? That era, now let's understand for a second. It's not of course, we care for all human beings. And for innocent children being murdered in such a vicious way, it's horrible. But it's Achenu B'nai Yisrael living next door. Who do you think he's preparing these big storages of chemical weapons for? Who do you think? And we all know. He's talking about Hezbollah. He's talking about terrorists. He's talking about the worst of the worst. Well, it happens on Parsha Shmini. Here in Eretz Yisrael, it was the next Parsha. But over here, it was Parsha Shmini. And Syria is outside of Eretz Yisrael, so it's also Parsha Shmini. Now, what happened? This year, Parsha Shmini, we read Parsha Shmini 3 times. So we go back to the Rebbe's Sichos in Parsha Shmini. When the Rebbe's, that year, Parsha Shmini, 1991, was exactly like this year. It was also a triple Shmini. And the Rebbe goes on to talk about the miracle that number 8 is an unbelievable number. It's the number associated with Moshiach. It's the transcendental power. 7 we spoke about earlier is creation. 8 is a beyond creation. When the whole Geula of Mitzrayim came about, it came about through Uz Yashir Moshe, Aleph, on top of the 7. There are 7 and there's number 1. That's the 8th dimension. Mashiach's, the word Mashiach ends with a ches, which ches is number 8. Moshiach, the Gemara says, there are 8 Nesichei Adam. There are, throughout all of history, there are 8 princes, noblemen. They're ultimate noblemen, and one of them is Moshiach Tzedkenu. Everything, number 8 is completely the Geula, completely the redemption. And the Rebbe says, when you have, now by the way, interesting to note, the year the Yidden went out of Mitzrayim was a year 2448. And this year is 5778. And it's interesting, this year is even more, because there, it wasn't the 8 right on top of the 7. It's 2448. Here it's the 7s, and on top of the 7 is number 8. Okay? So the Rebbe says, unbelievable. And the fact that the Rebbe says, that year, the number 8 is so strong because we read Shmini 8 times. That's the most you can read it, and that's a Shmini, Shmeina, Shmeina year. A year that you read Shmini 8 times, Shmeina is a fatty year. It's a year full of blessings, full of godly light. So Trump, Erev Shabbos, Parsha Shmini, now in Syria was already Shabbos, Parsha Shmini. The day when what? When they read 8 times, when they read the final 8th time, Parsha Shmini, and what does he do? He hits 8 targets. 8 targets! Now I read a little bit more about it. Not just he hit, he hit, and he said it. He said actually a week earlier, I'm going to hit 8 places. We're considering 8 targets. That's what he said. And in the end, he hit 8 targets in 3 compounds. Well, we read Parsha Shmini 8 times over 3 weeks. Isn't that interesting? Coincidence? Now, which day did it happen? Kaf Ches Sivan, Kaf Ches Nisan. It was in Eretz Yisrael. As we're going to Chav Tes. Parsha Shabbos was Friday. Was Chav Ches Nisan. What's Chav Ches Nisan on the Lubavitcher calendar? Chav Ches Nisan gives us all shivers. Chav Ches Nisan tretresels every chassid, shakes us up at the core. What happened, Chav Ches Nisan? That's when the Rebbe told us that he's not going to bring Moshiach or finalize it. It's our job. Kinderlich, you need to do it. You're able to do it, you could do it, and you will do it. He empowered us to bring the Geula. Chav Ches Nisan. Gave us the koyach, again koach, the power of Geula. So he, as the source of that power, says that we need to do it because the whole power of Mashiach is not a power, as we mentioned earlier, coming from above. It's not divine intervention. Mashiach is godliness exploding from the world. It's the truth of Hashem from below. That's why it doesn't work that he should bring Moshiach from above. It needs to happen from us and from within the world. So now let's take a look for one moment. A year before that, this is not the first time Trump hit Syria. A year before that, there was also a strike. The first time. It was the first major military action that President Trump took, that shook, that basically said to the world that he's like Nikki Haley says, a new sheriff in town. So he hit them, and the first time, when they again using gas, the poisonous gas, the chemical weapons. Then I took notice. That's when it really got my attention, because it happened on Yud Aleph Nisan, which is the Rebbe's birthday. And that's the first act, military act, that Trump does. And when you know something is happening on the Rebbe's birthday, you know who's doing it. So why the first time did it happen Yud Aleph Nisan? And why the second time did it happen Kav Ches Nisan? Very simple, I think. The first time, it's like a father going out with his child, and they need to do something, and the child is scared, doesn't know how. And the father throws it, or does whatever he does it once. And then he says, gives the ball to his little boy, and he says, now you do it. So the first time, the Rebbe did it. Yud Aleph Nisan. And then the Rebbe says a year later, Chavre, Kinderlich, you can do it. If you'll only assimilate my energies, my light that I have given you. I've given you the entire Geula. I've given you everything. You just have to make it yours. You have to make the Geula yours. Which we're hopefully going to get to a little bit later, which is the whole idea of Gimel Tamuz. And the concealment that we're in, the Rebbe is allowing us to make it ours instead of it being his Moshiach. Very nice, it's his Moshiach. It needs to be our Moshiach. So on Chav Ches Nisan, again, unbelievable. And the Rebbe told us that the Simanev of the Geula, let's see one more time, the Rebbe said to us, the signs of the Geula are when nations are fighting the battles of the Jewish people and we don't have to fight them. So Mela America is one thing, but Britain and France, not necessarily the best friends all the time of the of Eretz Yisrael. And here they all get together, and together they strike Syria, and they remove to a certain degree the threat of chemical weapons. Wow. And again, these events are happening one after another. Now we go back a little bit, and we rewind, and we come to, I might have forgotten something, but we come to, as I remember right now, we come to Zois Chanukah, again number 8, the 8th day of Chanukah. Who doesn't remember that day? Who doesn't remember the day that I was dreaming about years earlier, and I was thinking, what's going to happen if that's going to happen? What is it going to look like? What is 770 going to look like? What is going to... And I remember I used to dream, I used to lay at night thinking, because I had such animosity and such hatred when I read the viciousness of the arrest, of the libel that was made against him, and the way the judge threw the book at him much worse. She did much worse than they asked. And she viciously took a Chassidish young man and put him into jail. A man of a family, a father. Worst criminals and murderers don't get that. And everybody can sense. You saw an unbelievable thing. You saw that the Jewish people, it resonated with the Jewish people very deeply, the pain. It wasn't something that belonged, he's a Lubavitcher, so Anash. Okay, we have a special connection. But such an unbelievable Avas Yisrael of all Jews. It touched us in a place that's deeper than all the differences that we have. It touched us in our neshama in such a deep place. Lakewood is at the forefront of this fight for Rubashkin. The Yated Neman, which definitely didn't start as a very friendly Chabad newspaper. They, week after week, article after article, fighting for Rubashkin. Satmer, Skver, Chassidim. But then remember when it happened? Remember the unbelievable joy that gripped the entire Jewish people. In Los Angeles, within minutes, I called, we're having dancing tonight. This one donated food. Everybody came together. Men, half a night. It was unbelievable. But so it broke out. Look at the videos in Carolina Shul, and in this shul, in Borough Park, and in that shul. Kabbalah's Panim, everybody comes out to greet him. But where does everybody end up? 770. And everybody in Lakewood and other places are watching 770 live. 770 live is being watched. Everybody's looking on that moment of Geula, that moment of redemption, when everybody felt the redemption. I had younger light walking in, people furthest from Chabad, they just came to dance. They were generally necessarily didn't come up to me too much. But then they came and they were dancing, and he said to me, Rabbi Wolf, I believe Moshiach is coming. People felt that. Everybody felt it was like a moment. It was a moment of redemption. It resonated so deeply. And if this can happen, that can happen. When? On the 8th day of Hanukkah, a Yom Tov for all the Jewish people? Sure. It's not a Chabad Yom Tov Davka, but again, in the year of 5778, it's really, really special. Something very special. By the way, something very interesting. I mean, it was on COL, it was on other things. A week later, not a week later, I think less than a week later. Less than a week later, there was the concert in I think in Flatbush, or maybe it was Manhattan, I think. The Haas concert. And this is not a Crown Heights event, that's not a Lubavitcher event, definitely not a Tzvati event. and this is this is Borough Park and Flatbush and so on. And everybody's sitting there, and suddenly the screen, and Avram Fried starts singing, Baruch haba Melech HaMoshiach. And I'm not watching concerts, that's not what I do, but someone sent me a little clip, I couldn't believe it. I almost fainted. I said, how is this happening at the Hask concert? Couldn't believe it. And so there was someone saying, it's not true, it is true, back and forth, did it happen? Then someone was saying, maybe it was some tzvati that works over there in the back room, and he's playing around. Then I hear, no, it came from the other singer who likes to put the Rebbe's, whatever. But the fact was big chiddush to me was that I didn't see the next day big machoya. I didn't see it, not on the yeshiva world, not on Vasas Nayas. I didn't see a big write-up that how dare they do that? And my explanation, do you realize that after Rubashkin, and not just after Rubashkin, the arrest of Rubashkin and the consequence after Rubashkin was something very powerful, something really magnificent happened. The Rambam says that in the end of days, the Jewish people are going to do tshuva. We're going to do tshuva. But what do we have to do tshuva for? The first thing we have to do is for the Aveira that destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. And what destroyed the Beis HaMikdash? Sinas Chinam. The Jews don't get along with each other. That destroyed the Beis HaMikdash. Now, what's the ultimate sign of Ava, of loving a person? Is if you can, two things. If you can be hurt and pained by his suffering, his or her suffering, and you can rejoice in their simcha. And here on both ends, Chesed and Gevura, on both ends, Jews across the spectrum felt pain for Rubashkin. Again, it didn't make a difference which affiliation, and had genuine, real simcha and joy when he came out. That is the ultimate tshuva. The Rebbe said, we did tshuva already. This is like extra dose of tshuva. Unbelievable. What does it say in Parshas, the last parsha of Zois HaBracha? This is the blessing. Moshe Rabbeinu says, what does Moshe Rabbeinu say? He says, Vayehi b'Yeshurin Melech, that the Eibishter is amongst the Jewish people. God is a king amongst Israel. When? Bis'asef Roshei Am. Rashi says, when the leaders of the people get together. So Rashi says these words, Eimesai hu Malkam. When is he their king? When they're unified. But when they're not unified, he's not their king. So what happened the moment everybody unified? So the Melech of the Jewish people appeared on the screen. Immediately after, and everybody saw it. And no one complained because Mazlei Chozeh, deep inside, people know the emes. People know. We Lubavitchers still have a chip on our shoulder. We're uncomfortable. But people know. And if we would only have a little more confidence and a little more stolz and not be so afraid of Ma Yoimru Habriyos, what this one will say or that one will say, we would be holding already much further. But Baruch Hashem, things are moving along, and we're getting it. We're beginning to wake up. We're beginning to get with the program. Well, let's go a little bit back. Right before that, what happened? Before Zois Chanukah. Again, Trump announces a stunning announcement about Jerusalem. And he makes the announcement that Yerushalayim, that the United States recognize Yerushalayim as the capital. Earlier I spoke about him opening the capital, but before that he announced that he's going to do it. and that he's going to move the embassy. And what does he say? And it's interesting. And when did he do it? He did it was the 19th day of Kislev, Yutes Kislev, which is the source of Pada B'Shalom Nafshi, which is the source of the light of Moshiach. The Rebbe is the 7th Nasi of Chabad, and Chabad's whole power is related to the 19th of Kislev, when the teaching of the Alter Rebbe came forth. Unbelievable. There's a whole thing that, it's interesting that David Friedman went to visit the oil together with Rabbi Wolf after he was appointed. It's one of the biggest miracles was that with all all the reasons not to allow someone like David Friedman to enter into the position of being the U.S. representative that's ultimately supposed to negotiate peace between the Israelis and the Palestinians, to let someone with which what they call such extreme ideas. This is a miracle on its own. Tremendous miracle. But he went to the oil. And a whole story, he walked outside, and exactly when he comes out into the room, he sees the Rebbe talking all about not giving any land to the Arabs, and so on and so forth. And he turned to Rabbi Wolf and he said, this was staged, right? So Rabbi Wolf said, listen, you got a phone call from somewhere, from the State Department, from the White House. You were busy for 45 minutes. This was not in the plan. You were supposed to be here 45 minutes ago. And you're here now. But later, after Trump spoke at the opening of the embassy, Rabbi Wolf spoke to David Friedman, and he asked him, did the Rebbe, I think it was, did the Rebbe influence, no, he said to him, no. He asked him, he said, you wrote that speech, did you? He said, the Rebbe wrote it, I just penned it. And this is the speech that Trump gave when? On the 19th of Kislev. Is something? Do you remember the picture in the 19th of Kislev? In Eretz Yisrael, here it was still the 18th of Kislev. But since this is happening in Yerushalayim, so we have to go according to Yerushalayim. In Yerushalayim was the night of the 19th of Kislev. And you know, the Arabs went because they were so upset about what happened, and they shut all the lights of their mosque. Suddenly, the whole Har HaBayis was dark, and the Koisel HaMaravi was glowing with such a godly light. Mamish Giyula, Mamish Moshiach, Oirosh Yerushalayim. It was like, take a look at the pictures of that night. The Koisel HaMaravi never looked so beautiful. The 19th of Kislev, the Oir Chodosh, the light of Moshiach, Tzedkenu, the light of Chassidus. Look, Sheyafutzu Meneisecho Chutza. What, are we blind not to see this? But President Trump made the announcement on the 19th of Kislev, but his decision to do so was really formed a couple of days earlier. When every Yudalit Kislev going to Tezvav Kislev in the evening, and when what happened? Every 6 months there was a waiver that would come up, and the waiver because in the days of Bill Clinton, the Congress had passed a law that the embassy needs to move to Jerusalem, but they gave leeway because it could be something like this can cause World War III. So they allowed that the president can push it off if he sees that's for the best interest of the United States not to do so. Well, so it happened from the days of Clinton. The entire presidency, the leftover presidency of Clinton, and then the 8 years of Bush, and the 8 years of Obama, and then finally, after all of that, it came to Trump when? When did he have to sign? The midnight, I think it was, or the evening of the night going between the 14th and the 15th of Kislev. That's when he does not sign that waiver, and that's really when it happened b'pnimius. What's the 14th of Kislev? Is the day that our Rebbe, the Rebbe's anniversary, married the Rebbetzin. Now we know that this day everything in the life of a tzaddik is special. But the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin getting married is like everything. The Rebbe said, this day is what gives me a connection to you, because the Rebbe is a son-in-law. So the Rebbe's connection is dafka through marriage. So the Rebbe becoming the Nasi and the Melech, the Nasi of Chabad, and really the king of the whole world. Where does he receive that Shemen HaMishcha, that anointing oil? Came about when he went under the chuppah, when he married the Rebbetzin on the Yud Dalet Kislev. Now Yud Dalet is Gematria David. This is Malchus Beis David. And that night there was a super moon in the sky. Look it up. That night there was a huge moon, and they were talking about it on the news. They say, if you want to really see something really beautiful, go outside and look at the moon tonight. It's the largest that we'll ever look. And what's a supermoon? It's 14% larger. 14, Yudalid. It looks 14% larger. David, the moon is David Melech Yisrael. Every time we go outside and we bench the moon, we're talking about the coming back of Malchus Beis David on the 14th. And it's 30% brighter. Well, we learn Pirkei Avos. In 2 weeks from now, it says, HaMalchus, kingship, nickness, is acquired. Which kingship? Kingship, holy kingship, is acquired b'shloishem milos, with 30 degrees. Milos degrees. Look at it. It's 30. That's what the... I'm not the big scientist, but I look things up on Google, right? So I looked up, I looked up what is a supermoon. I'm excited. I'm looking around all day long because I'm going crazy. I mean, you can't help it. If you realize what's happening, you can't help just going crazy from seeing this is nonstop. So when I realized right away, I look into all the details of it. 30 degrees brighter, 14 degrees larger on the 14th. With the moon representing Am Yisrael, representing the rise of the Jewish people. Let's continue further. So do we still believe in coincidence? A little hard. It's getting a little hard. It's getting a little hard to excuse event after event after event like this. And we go back earlier and we go to Trump becoming president. January 20th, 45th President of the United States. Maybe I have a little connection to Donald Trump. That's why I'm seeing all these things, because my English birthday is January 20th. And I became 45 years old when he became the 45th President last year. That's a connection. That's a connection, okay? Can't dismiss that. I say hello to my mother. She's here, 45, 50. In any case, so my mother knows exactly when. Thank you. In any case, now Trump, I want to tell you something. Some people think, okay, Rabbi, this rabbi, he probably listens to talk radio. and he gets, I'm going to admit I do listen a little bit. Sometimes I listen to, CDs of Torah CDs. Sometimes I listen to talk radio just to catch up on the news. And I'd like to get some... So you say, you like Trump because of whatever. There's nothing to do with politics. It's not about Trump. Everything that I'm talking to you over here, it's not him. It's a garzin biyad ha'chotzev. There is a power that's working through him. He is the axe in the hand of the carpenter. You see, his entire melucha, his entire kingship, is divinely orchestrated. He is the agent of Moshiach Tzedkeinu to bring about powerful change in the world, or what we might say, to bring in a whole new world order, which is paving the way for Mashiach Tzedkeinu, so that Mashiach doesn't have to do the dirty work, because the dirty work he did. His birthday he's the oldest president ever to become president, 70 years old. His birthday is in June. They're not making it President's Day yet, okay? 70 years old when he was born. I'm sorry, wasn't born. 70 years, on January 20th, when he was elected president, he was 70 years old, 7 months and 7 days exact. On the year 5777. And when the Rebbe says that the number sevens represents the ufaratzta, the complete purification of the world, and when the Rebbe explains that the power of 770, which is the power, the Rebbe says clearly, look in Parshas Vayeshev. It's really strange. The Rebbe sat the year Nun Aleph and Nun Beis, and the Rebbe spoke so many sichos about world events. And the Rebbe said that it's our obligation. The Rebbe said, the Rebbe said after one of the Fabrengens, Vayeshev, Nun Beis, the Rebbe said, a chassid sits there, and he says, I'm used to, from all the Chabad Rabbeim, and it doesn't say it that way, not exactly those words, but that's what the Rebbe is implying. Rabbeim all said chassidus. I talk about Atzilus and Bria and Man, all these spiritual men. Suddenly a Rebbe comes and he's sitting and talking what happened in the news that week in the entire Fabrengen. The Rebbe is talking about the France went and they took their song and they changed their song. And the Rebbe says, because it's Negeya, we have to open, the Rebbe says, we have to open our eyes and we have to look and we have to thank Hashem for the miracles that he does. And the Rebbe says it's Negeya to be a Mashiach, that we should recognize the miracles that the Eibishter is doing. Because Chizkiyahu HaMelech, the Eibishter did miracles for him, and he could have been Mashiach, and he was not Mashiach because he did not thank Hashem. So the Rebbe said to all of us, the Rebbe can, it's not, he can thank himself, Hashem himself, but he said to all of us that and the Rebbe wants that we should follow. Some people say, well, the Rebbe didn't say that. Where does Wolf take these things? The Rebbe didn't say that. What do you want? The Rebbe gave us the koiches. He said, learn, when you learn my siches, when you learn what I told you, learn about Moshiach. And the Alter Rebbe said, when they asked the Alter Rebbe, when is Moshiach coming? The Alter Rebbe said, you'll see it in the newspapers. When the news and the sicha that you're learning of the week parallel each other, and they go on one and one. Whatever you're seeing, learning in the Sikha that the Rebbe spoke, and an Aleph and an Beis, and you see those events happening during the week, then you know Mashiach is here. It's in the news. But in any case, 5777. So the Rebbe says 7 in that Sikha, that the 770 represents the idea that which is the lowest, that which is the most distant from Kedusha, that which is the most coarse, becomes synchronized with the Eibishter's Ratzon. Not refined, not elevated. It remains a tachton. It remains a lowly entity. But in its lowliness, it does what God wants. It doesn't act in an ungodly way. And that's the Rebbe says, the power of 770. And I'm learning this, and I'm on the plane actually, flying to Chicago to speak. And I'm reading this concept and this idea. And that was the day, which we're going to get to in a moment, when officially Trump was given the license to take to become president. December 19th, because that's the day that what do they call it? The Electoral College voted. So they voted on that day. So I'm reading the Sikha, and I'm saying, oh, Gewalt. Talk about someone that we don't necessarily see as the ultimate refined. Let's not be silly. He's not the most refined human being. He's not. He's very blunt, and I have respect for a president, so we talk with respect, but he's not necessarily. All kinds of stuff came out, this and that. We don't have to go there. And yet, as he is, without changing, it's not like he changed, exactly the way he is. And exactly like that, he's doing everything godly. He becomes president at 5777. Also coincidence? And who speaks? Who's the first person to speak? After he gives his inauguration. The first. What's the first on the agenda? The first thing on the agenda. An Orthodox rabbi, a rabbi from, not a Chabad rabbi, but a very Chabad rabbi, friendly rabbi, Rabbi Hauer, met him from Los Angeles, spoke. That's crazy. I mean, from all the politicians in the United States, from all, not the Galach, right? Not the priest, the Jew, the rabbi, and an Orthodox rabbi. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. None of this makes any sense. And then we go back a little earlier, that December 19th, when Trump officially was licensed, when the Electoral College voted for him, and it came with a lot of resistance. Because they were saying, what were they saying? What was everybody saying when Trump was, even the Electoral College was saying they're not going to vote for him. There were many of them saying they're not going to vote. And yet they did, okay? Or in the end, he was voted in. But when did that happen? December 19th. Well, it was Yutes Kislev. Again, Yutes Kislev. So we have 2 times Yutes Kislev related to this change that happened in the world. Now let's go back a little. November 7th, I think. That's election day. November 7th, when he won the election. What happened 2 days before that? Motzei Shabbos Kodesh, right before the Tuesday of election day, the president's son-in-law and his daughter together went to the oil and went to seek the Rebbe's assistance and bracha in that, and that they should win in the presidency. And it was filmed, and it was put on the media, everybody saw it. Again, you see what's happening? Every event associated, all these things, it's not the Baba Rebbe, it's not the Lakewood Rosh Hashiva, it's not this one, it's not this one. Can't we split it? Have a little bit from here and a little bit from there? It's always Lubavitch. Always associated with, unbelievable. There's so many other places you can go. Could have gone visited Meron, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. Could have gone to Uman. Could have gone to Mezhel, but there's so many places. No. They go dafka to the oil, and there where they're davening. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. No, Well, what's going on? Since he became president, it's so absurd. People are still scratching their heads how it happened. How did it happen? How could this be? I mean, everybody was against him. His party hated him. Everybody hated him. It cannot be. He can't. Doesn't make any sense. Everybody says it's ridiculous. So we couldn't figure out. So you have to make an investigation. They're doing already, I'm telling you, they're doing Bedikas Chametz already a year and a half, and they didn't find anything, not even one little piece. You know, we have 10 pieces, not even one. They didn't find anything. But one thing they know for sure, the Russians colluded. That means that there was some intervention by the Russians. So far, they didn't find the Russians colluding. They found the Russians did things, but they tried to get, and we know who the Russians are. The Rebbe and the Friediger Rebbe came from Russia. There's no question that there was some. Comey now it's coming out how one-sided he was. It's coming out right now as we're talking, how much he was trying to help the other side. A week before, literally, again, the numbers are important. We Lubavitchers get very excited about number 11. 11 days before the election was when he dropped the bomb that he's reopening the investigation into Hillary Clinton. And the second he did that, suddenly his polls went shooting up, and he came pretty close. And then 3 days later, no, a week later, we're taking it back. No, nothing happened. Vertem gebeten. Who asked him? He himself said later that he gets nauseous by the thought that he influenced and he caused. She blames him, and then in the end, he did his shlichus and he was thrown out. Oisa shlichasa, he did what he needed to do. They fired him. He's not there anymore. But this is amazing. You see clearly the hand of the Eibishter, the hand of Moshiach Tzidkenu involved in all of this. It is so clear. Now we have to realize one thing. All of this suddenly happened. And it came after a period of a lot of darkness. A lot of darkness. Everything I said till now is nice. But what I'm going to say now, hopefully with Hashem's help, is really important. Really, really, really important. In 1990, in Tafshin Nun, the Rebbe told us, Higiyaz man gulaschem, the time of redemption has arrived. It's Friday afternoon, Erev Shabbos, it's on the world clock, 6th millennium, 1990, it comes out exactly 5,750. It's exactly midday of Friday, Chatzos, in which we start doing intensive preparations for Shabbos. Shabbos is coming, that's Moshiach's world. And by the way, Moshiach's world is not after Shabbos. Moshiach's world is actually Friday afternoon. Yom Shekulei Shabbos is already, Moshiach actually, the Zohar says, comes to prepare the world to enter into Shabbos. So Mashiach's reign, some people think, we have till the year 6,000, still a nice while. Maybe Mashiach can come in 200 years. Chas v'shalom, chas v'shalom. It's not true. Mashiach's reign is an Elef Hashishi in the 6th millennium. Mashiach is Adam. Adam stands for Adam, David, Mashiach. The Rebbe mentioned it many times. So Adam, he was created, and he opened his eyes, and he's in action. When? On the 6th day, on Friday. So Friday, that's the reign of Mashiach. To share with you something very, very special. Very special. The Gemara says, again, it's my own thought, but it's based on what it says in Chassidus. The Gemara says that Moshiach's cup, when it's going to come time after when Mashiach comes, it's going to be a big suda, a big meal, and all the yid and they come to and they talk about a meal where you're going to have a lot of rabbanim there. You're going to have all the rabbanim, and anybody that has family or a lot of rabbanim coming to a chasana, you have a very big problem. It's one of the biggest nightmares. You don't want to offend anybody, right? So who are you going to give this? And someone is going to get balaidikt, right? Someone is going to get insulted. So we only have sheva brachis with this, yeah? Okay, fine. Imagine a suda like that. You only have one benching. You don't even have sheva brachis, as I say that. One benching, and we have Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and we have Moshe, and all the Tanoim, and all the Amaroyim, and Shimon Bar Yochai, and everybody's there. But they're going to pass the cup around. They're going to give it to Avram Avinu, and he's going to decline. They're going to give it to Yitzchak. It's going to finally come onto Moshiach, to David HaMelech, and David and Moshiach is one Indian. And David HaMelech is going to say, Kois Yeshua says, Li no levarech. To me it is right to bench. And he's going to pick up the cup. And the Gemara says, how large is that cup? And the Gemara says that the cup of Mashiach Tzidkenu contains 221 lugin. 221, a certain measure, like I don't know, it's not, like you would say 221 ounces, but a lug is a certain, larger than that. It's a big cup. It's a ginormous cup. And that's why, and he's going to have the special ancient wine, 221 lug. Why? Because David HaMelech says, Koisi Revoya, my cup is full. The word Revoya, the gematria, is 221. Reish, Vav, Yud, K, 221. Mashiach's cup is going to hold 221. Then there's another pasuk. It says Moshiach doesn't have life on his own. Moshiach is lacking life. Just like David HaMelech, is Zayd the David HaMelech, because if anybody learned a little Chassidus knows that Malchus is like the moon, doesn't have its own life. It must receive it. Malchus is a makabel, it's a recipient. It must receive it from somewhere else. So David HaMelech didn't have any life, and it says David got his 70 years, either from Adam HaRishon, who lived only to 930 and donated 70 years to David HaMelech, or he received it from or he got it from Avram, not from Yitzchak, Avram, Yaakov, and Yosef. It was like a collection. They did a charity campaign, and everybody donated a few years. They collected 70 years for David HaMelech, and that's how David lives. Tzemach Tzedek explains this idea. If you look in, I think, Mitzvahs Minui Melech, he explains the idea that Malchus, that David receives the Malchus from various different kings. Fine. But Mashiach doesn't even have any life, it says. And the pasuk says, chapter 21 in Tehillim, Chayim Shol Memcha. Mashiach pleads for life. Chayim Shol Memcha, he's asking for life. Nosata lo, you give it to him. Oirech Yomim, long life. Oilam Vaed, forever and ever. Oirech. So the Chassidus, it says, Oirech Yomim, it says Mashiach receives his life from what's called long life, which means eternal life. And he's going to bring long life to all of us. Chayim Nitzchi. And once he's going to live Nitzchiistic, he's going to bring, because Mashiach shares everything with us. He's the ultimate Gutzkeit. Nothing he wants for himself. Everything he wants to share. So when he lives forever, he brings us all into living forever. But he receives his life from an infinite place called Keser. Keser is infinite. And Keser is called, one of the names, the level of Keser, one of the external part of Keser is called Erech Anpin, the long face of Hashem, whatever, we're not going to get into right now, I'll let Chassidus. But Erech is Gematria 221. So Mashiach receives his life from this level of Erech Anpin, and that's why he lives forever, and he doesn't have the life on his own. But what's Erech Gematria 221? How much does he fit into his cup? 221. And how many years are there to the year 6,000 from the year 5779? How many years are there left to the year 221 years. So we're talking about Malchus of Mashiach now. We're not talking about something. The amount of Mashiach's Malchus, I mean, there's nothing left anymore. There's only the 221 years. Oirech Yomim. Unbelievable. But in any case, going back to what I was saying before, so the Rebbe tells us in Nun, the Giyaz Mangulaschem, the time of redemption has arrived, and the Rebbe starts pointing to events in the world, telling us Mashiach is coming, and open your eyes, and so on and so forth. And we Lubavitchers are beginning to go mad. We're going crazy week after week. And there's something else. There's always been rumors, there's always been these quiet rumors amongst Chabad, all the way back. We're not talking about now. Talking about from when the Rebbe became Rebbe. From the beginning, whispers, the Lubavitcher Rebbe is Moshiach. And every time, there was excitement. Chassidim always spoke about it, but we kept it kind of hushed. If some Chassidim tried to get a little bit too loud about it, the Rebbe would hush it. But never denied it, just hushed it. Sometimes the Rebbe hushed it very, very strongly. The Rebbe said it's going to chas v'sholem cause people to not to learn Chassidus, and so on and so forth. The Rebbe was like, whoa. But I'll tell you an interesting thing. One time Rabbi Chadakov wanted, there was a group of Chassidim, because they wrote, I think it was sometimes in the Lamed, a group of Chassidim wrote, there was a group of troublemakers. The Rebbe's, by the way, something interesting thing. The Rebbe's, the Gimel Tamuz, always comes out either in Parshas Koirach or week before. That means that the Nesius of our Rebbe is associated with fans, and let's just say not the biggest fans. And it shouldn't be a shock to us, because the Malchus of David HaMelech always we're talking about controversy. It was always the most controversial element, was always the concept of Malchus Beis David. There was always stories evolving around it. It was always strange. Everybody had bad things to say about it. Go through. It started with Yehuda and Tamar and David and Bathsheba and Boaz and Rus and Yishai. The whole story is always, and they're the biggest tzaddikim, yet there is always some cloud, a fog around them. That's the story of Moshiach Tzidkenu. Let's not forget what it says in Tehillim. Even ma'asu aboinim. The stone that the builders have rejected. Who are the builders? Hoysal Rosh Pina becomes the top of the mountain. Becomes the cornerstone. Rosh Pina becomes the cornerstone, becomes the ultimate building, the ultimate Beis HaMikdash, the ultimate construction of everything. Coming from what? A stone that everybody laughs at. Mas, everybody pushes it away. Boinim, the builders, the sages, the Gemara says that who are oiskim b'binyanei shel olam? Talmidei chachamim. That the Talmidei chachamim are the ones who reject Moshiach Tzidkenu. So take a look in history. Take a look. David HaMelech was opposed by who? By Achitophel, by the heads of the Sanhedrin, by the Mayatzes Gedolei HaTorah of his days, by all the great groups of people. All laughed, all made fun, all said whatever. But yet, the Bechir Hashem, for whatever reason, Hashem works in mysterious ways, but Hashem always does it in such a way that there is a thing against him. So when it comes to our Rebbe, going back, where did I go off? Someone remind me. Somewhere I went off. What was I saying? My thought before this. Ever Masa. No, before Ever Masa Boyna. Ever Masa Boyna was a parenthetical thought. Yeah, first, no, that's already too early. I'm trying to get to a middle place. Somewhere in the middle. Can someone remind me? Better help me out fast because it's no good. Huh? What? No, I didn't say that. Right. What is it? 221, Moshiach, okay. I don't write notes, so I have to remember this. I don't. Okay, oh yeah, that's what I was looking for. Koirach, oh good. See, thank you. So Parshas Koirach, there's always a controversy, there's always Koirach, and here's the idea. Let's understand something. The message of Parshas Koirach is that there is a Moshe Rabbeinu who says something. And then there are those that are very smart, very intelligent, and really smart. Koirach, the Rashi says Pikeach, he's really wise. A klugir. And he managed to bring along 250 of the heads of the Sanhedrin. These were no little guys. These were the really big shots and leaders of the Jewish people. They all joined Koirach. And what was their problem? The problem was one thing. They didn't believe in the absoluteness of Moshe Rabbeinu's word. Now, when Moshe Rabbeinu says something, his words are Dvar Havaya Mamish. That Moshe doesn't say anything of his own. Rashi says it actually last week. Ein Moshe Oimer Klum. Doesn't say anything. Aaron said it to the Malach HaMaveh, said it to the angel of death. Aaron said to Moshe, when he told him stop, and the Malach HaMaveh said, I'm the Shliach of the Eibishter. And he said, and Aaron said, I'm the Shliach of Moshe. So he says, well, I'm the Shliach of God. He says, well, Moshe Rabbeinu says so. Moshe doesn't say anything that the Eibishter doesn't say. So those who went and doubted that maybe it's not that they stopped keeping mitzvahs. What does that mean? Well, all the mitzvahs they heard from Moshe. What is that? It means that 99.9 of what Moshe said is correct. There is 1.1 or 0.001 or point or 0.000. I don't know where we're going to put the one. There's a crumb of a crumb of a crumb. Moshe's still human. And he can say things that are not exactly the Eibishter's word. And what happened in the end? There was a hole in the ground. And from that hole, from deep below, they yell, Moshe emes. The Torah emes. Moshe is true. True means ein boy doifi. There isn't even one tiny speck of a word that he says that is not dvar elokim mamish. Everything he says. Let's take it to work at the word emes. What does emes mean? Aleph. Everybody knows this. Mem. Aleph is the first letter. Mem is the center letter, and Taf is what? The last letter. If something is true, it needs to be true through and through. To the very, very end. Chas v'sholem for people to say that, you know what, yeah, the Rebbe's siches and my morim and all this, but then once it got to Nun and Aleph, we just don't understand, we don't know what he's saying, let's just put those farim away, let's hide them, they're just confusing us. The Rebbe was saying such strange things, he's embarrassing us, what does he have to say? That is making Chabad look bad, it's hurting us, afatzes amayonis. Lubavitcher Rebbe, please be quiet, don't chas v'shalom, all of that, you're hurting us, we can't continue our tremendous Chabad work around the whole world of spreading Yiddishkeit. This Moshiach business is getting people nervous, Rebbe, so please don't talk about it. Rebbeinu Shalom, do we realize what is being said? If Tov is not emes, then Aleph isn't emes. How can there be even a shadow of a doubt in one word, one speck came out of the Rebbe's mouth? And the Rebbe didn't say one word. What was Basi Legani? Basi Legani was clearly saying, I am the seventh tzaddik. My job is the same job as Moshe Rabbeinu, to bring the Shekhinah down here to the world. And then the Rebbe, Sicha after Sicha after Sicha after Sicha after Sicha, he gives it to us in print. Take a look, Beis Rabbeinu Sheba Bavel. Some want to deny the Rebbe never said it. Some crazy Chassidim who started this whole business. It's just simply not true. And I'm not a party guy. I'm telling you, I don't have a pin. I don't have a flag on my shtreimel. And I was uncomfortable like everybody else for 23 years. Embarrassed with this whole business. And for me, it was much more better. Now, let's make Lubavitch look not nice. Deep inside, I always knew an emes, because I knew there can't be something. But it was dark. It was dark. It was so dark in the world. You realize when Gimel Tamuz happened, it didn't just stop. That itself is like the worst of the worst. But it brought along to our fleshiga eyes a lot of darkness. After that began, what happened after Gimel Tamuz? After that came the horrible Oslo Accords, which led to the antifadas that happened. Let's remember, we don't want to remember painful experiences of the explosions that were happening on on buses and on restaurants, children, and what was going on, the horrific bloodshed that was going on to the Jewish people. And then 9/11 that we're still impacted today. We have to take off our shoes when we go to the airport just because of that one event, which unleashed horrible terrorism in the world. And afterwards, such anti-Semitism that grew around the world, and a BDS movement, and a tremendous battle, a coalition of darkness to stop the coming of Moshiach. They decided with absolute certainty. Who? The Obama administration, with the American left, together with the European Union, together with the college campuses, together with the media, Yad Achas, all joined together. Again, these are all subconscious drives, because they know Moshiach is coming, and the Rebbe says it in Parshas Miketz. Let me share with you the words of the Rebbe. The Rebbe gifted me this week. I didn't see this till now. But this adds so much clarity. The Yashloima, this is Parshas Miketz. The Rebbe says this already in Toshin Nun Aleph. So this is not, the Rebbe says, Dishehiskarvus labias Mashiach tzedkenu. Once it comes close to the coming of Mashiach, hu gam hasiba, it's also the reason, lehisgabrus hachoshech ba'olam. It's the reason for the intensification of darkness in the world, shebiglal hisgabrus hakedusha. Because holiness is becoming so strong, the other side also fights back. They fight, Mashiach's coming, and you have to fight them. But the Rebbe says, whose business is to fight these powerful forces of evil? The Rebbe doesn't say it's us. This is Moshiach Tzidkenu's work himself. This is his work, to destroy this coalition of darkness that's marching against Hashem and against Moshiach and against Yerushalayim. Moshiach Tzidkenu. And the Rebbe says, Ad shevinatzeach, till he will win. And so I was wondering, what's this darkness? And why did I have such a hard time to have a little bit of munah? What happened to all of us? We're chassidim, Rabbeinu Shalom, we're chassidim of the Rebbe. We believed every word the Rebbe says is emes. And then we came up with such a narishkeit. How did we fall into such stupidity? I think we have to do tshuva. A Lubavitcher Rebbe, a legacy, and a shmegacy, Rachmana litzlan. Are we not ashamed with ourselves? Really, it doesn't make any sense. Someone told me yesterday, the Alter Rebbe says yortzeit. The Alter Rebbe speaks about a yortzeit. The Alter Rebbe speaks that when a tzaddik finished his work, so the day of his yortzeit is such a great day. All of his work comes together because it's a shleimus of his avodah. It's his perfection of his work. And that's why it's so powerful. So I can understand that on every tzaddik. Every tzaddik finished his job, whatever they finished, whatever they needed to do, and then the next tzaddik took over. Any chacham can get up, any person will get up and say the Lubavitcher Rebbe on Gimel, Tamuz, Tafshin, Nun, Dalet finished his job. Left the world still in a state where all the events that happened, the Rebbe's done, he finished, he gave us Chassidus, post-Holocaust, he inspired people, all gewaltige things. But he finished his work. Did anybody hear any Sikha of the Rebbe? One after another, the Rebbe is crying the whole time, one thing, Bias Moshiach Tzidkenu, that's the Rebbe's work. How can there be in the middle? It's a yard side, shleimus of all of his avodah. It's so ridiculous. It's so insane. But you know what? I do believe that. Well, I didn't believe it, but I went along with it. Why? Because the darkness that was in the world permeated our souls and darkened our souls. This is the ultimate test. This is the last test. And here's the test. MS or almost MS. And if it's almost MS, it's not MS at all. It's MS or it's not MS. Let me tell you a little story. I just read this last week. There's a beautiful set of Svarim they gave out called Oitzer HaChasidim. I hope you don't go buy this Svarim. Why? Because when I read that, I started reading Oitzer HaChasidim, I found a treasure trove of stories about the Rebbe, about Chassidus, about Elter Chassidim. It goes through the lives of all the Chassidim of the past 2 decades, of all the Ziknei Chassidim that Lubavitch is so proud of. Everybody, all the Mashpia Emeritus, so a 4-volume, beautiful book. The reason I hope you don't buy it is because when I read it, I said, oh, now I have so much schayra. When they call me to Fabring, I have stories I've never known. I always have a problem remembering stories. You should really get it, okay? We're ready for new. It's amazing. Anyways, over there I read something about Rabbi Ashkenazi. Rabbi Mordechai Ashkenazi. By the way, Rabbi Mordechai Ashkenazi, the Rav in Kfar Chabad, is the first one to write the Psak Din, and the Rebbe's Moshiach. So in any case, Rabbi Mordechai Ashkenazi's father, his name is Rabbi Moshe Ashkenazi. He was the rabbi in Tel Aviv. He was the Rav, he's the Rav, not the Rav of Tel Aviv. He's a Chabad rabbi, a Rav in Tel Aviv. He once came into the Rebbe for Yechidus, and they spoke, and afterwards he forgot certain things, or he forgot many things that were discussed in the Yechidus. And because of that, he was very, very troubled. How can you forget? He wanted to remember, but who's the only one who Yechidus means private? So no one else is there. So the only one to ask is the Rebbe. So somehow, I guess he gathered the guts to ask the Rebbe, saying, I forgot what happened by the Yechidus, if the Rebbe can remind me. The Rebbe gave him a zettel. The Rebbe answered. Look at these words. The Rebbe said, I think, Bi Yechidus, during Shas Yechidus, at the time of Yechidus, Shchina v'chulu. At the time of Yechidus, Shchina, the Shchina speaks through my mouth. I'm not talking, I'm channeling. Shchina medaberes mitoch geroi. The Rebbe didn't write the whole thing. The Rebbe writes Shchina v'chulu. Now, if that's true when the Rebbe meets with one Jew, when the Rebbe meets with Klal Yisrael, with the Jewish people, and he tells us Gisach, Sichas after Sichas, and he's pouring out his neshama and telling us where we're holding. And let's not kid ourselves. Everybody knows the Rebbe was the one who kept on throwing fuel on the fire of who's Moshiach. He didn't leave us. He made us crazy. I don't want to say that, but crazy in a good way. I mean, l'maylam and atam b'das. The Rebbe kept on throwing in Menachem Shemoy and his name, and the Friediger Rebbe is Moshiach of the generation, and the Rebbe goes in base 770 is called base Moshiach, and the third base Moshiach is going to come down Dafka over here, and the reason why the UN opened up in New York is because that's where Nasi Dareinu lives, and since the UN ultimately it's the idea of it is to make peace in the world, and when powers in the world get together to denuclearize, it's the work of Moshiach Tzidkenu, who's living in New York. Who's he speaking about? Chatzkel Greenberg, who was a grocery store in New York, and who's he talking about? The B'nai Shalom. What is he talking about? And the Rebbe says, it's merumis. Moshiach is merumis in the oisiyas miyad. And who's miyad? The Rebbe says Mem stands for Moshiach, and in parentheses he says Menachem. Moshiach, in parentheses Menachem. Yud is Yosef Yitzchak, the Friediger Rebbe. And then Shalom is the last 3 generations of Chabad. That is miyad. So who is he talking about? Menachem who? Menachem Finkelstein. We're so silly. How can we say? So the Rebbe told it to us. And then over here we have evidence. We have a woman sitting over here who made an event in which it was purely to be makabel the Rebbe as Melech HaMoshiach in Crown Heights, and she walked by the Rebbe on dollars, and watch it, you can see it, the Rebbe's response to that, and it should be by his Safa. And then later when they had the event and Chesed Halberstam came to report to the Rebbe that it was broadcast to different places, the Rebbe said, the nachas ruach that this is giving him, goydem nachas ruach, and it should be by Isafa. You'll say, well, there were answers where the Rebbe said stop. The only time there were answers when the Rebbe said stop was when Hasidim wrote, Rebbe, you're killing Chas v'sholem, you're destroying Lubavitch. And the Rebbe says, okay, your guys are the experts in the fields. I don't want to, I'm the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I want to destroy Lubavitch. So, okay, so we'll take it easy. The Rebbe never said stop. He said, now, l'shaitel, for now, time, it's not right, now it shouldn't happen. So if we're talking about someone who's a lukus, whose word is godly, is a ish elokim, he's a godly man, there's no mistakes. And it's not just, again, it's not just happens to be a Lubavitcher Rebbe who's a tzaddik, and we thought he's Moshiach, and he's a... If you learn a little chassidus, and if you have a little bit understanding of what the purpose of creation is, you learned the idea of, you learned Tanya, where the Alter Rebbe tells us the purpose of creation is not the spiritual worlds. The purpose of creation is Olam Hazeh Gashmi, the Tachta, in the lowest world possible. That is dark, and we have to fix it, and we have to bring Achdus Hashem, the unity of God to reveal to. Who teaches Achdus Hashem? Who taught Achdus Hashem? The Alter Rebbe began with the Baal Shem Tov, and then the Alter Rebbe, and then the 7 generations. And I think our Lubavitchers need to get a little bit more stolz, because people are scared. Scared of who? I suddenly wonder who. What are you afraid of? So I say, well, someone is going to say, people are going to say, let me ask you something. First of all, what are we? Just some fringe little group that some guru came out of nowhere and started making trouble? Is that who we are? Let's talk back our history. Let's go back who the Alter Rebbe was, the one who wrote the Shulchan Aruch, the Maggid, has a bunch of Talmidim, the holy Maggid of Mizrich. Of all of his Talmidim, he chooses the Alter. Let's go back a little more earlier. The Baal Shem Tov. Let's start with the Baal Shem Tov. I'm sorry if I'm taking, I don't even know, I lost all track of time. What time is it? What time is it? 7 o'clock. Okay, good. The time is working the other way. Amachaya. Okay, so the Baal Shem Tov, the holy Baal Shem Tov, has a Rebbe. Let's see. You know, the Baal Shem Tov's teacher. First of all, I saw this Shabbos. It's just to share with you what we're talking about. The Degel Machna Ephraim was the grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, Ephraim of Sladikov, Marcel Sladikov. Grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, one of the wrote primary Chassidish Sfarim, Polish Sfarim, one of the writes that he was a boy, he sat on the Baal Shem Tov's lap. And the Baal Shem Tov said, there's a Yid who hears Torah not from a Malach, not from Eliyahu Hanavi, but from the Eibishter Aleins. That's what the Baal Shem Tov says. There is a Yid who hears Torah not from a Malach, but from God himself. You imagine that is? He hears from God himself Torah, but in every moment he's a danger if he becomes arrogant that he should fall chas v'sholem into the lowest. So take a look. The Baal Shem Tov is saying about himself. Okay, besides the humility, the Baal Shem Tov is saying, I always recognize that the danger of where I stand. But at the same time, the Baal Shem Tov admits and says, Ich red mit Neibishten. Now the Baal Shem Tov had a Rebbe. Who's his Rebbe? Achi Ashiloini. Now other tzaddikim learned with Eliyahu Hanavi. The Arizal learned with Eliyahu Hanavi. The Kabbalah of the Ari, all Kabbalah we know from Ari. Why does the Baal Shem Tov have to learn with Achi Ashiloini? So here just one little thought. It's an important idea. Achi Ashiloini, the Rambam says, is one of the people who went out of Mitzrayim. He is one of the people that was Yotzei Mitzrayim. That means he stood by Matan Torah. Not only that, he was Makabel from David HaMelech. That when David HaMelech gave over the Torah. So here we are. He goes out of Mitzrayim, so he's connected to Moshe Rabbeinu. He received the Torah. He stood by Matan Har Sinai. He's Makabel from David HaMelech. David HaMelech Yisrael, Chai V'Kai. He received, who is the father of Moshiach's dynasty. And then he becomes the Rebbe of the Baal Shem Tov. You know what that's telling you? First of all, understand what Chassidus is. We're not messing around over here. This is not a little thing. Chassidus is the ultimate truth. It has to be, and it has to plug in, not through many, many generations. It has to plug directly into Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God. But it stops for a moment by David HaMelech, straight down to the Baal Shem Tov. See the connection? And then the Baal Shem Tov, who's the successor of the Baal Shem Tov, the Holy Maggid. From the Maggid has students that are Unbelievable, the tzaddikim, the students of the Mazi. But we all know what the Holy Baditchev said. We all ate from one pot, but the Alter Rebbe, he took all the, I forgot the word that he used over there, the schmaltz. He got the Alter Rebbe, and he charges him to write the Shulchan Aruch. People shouldn't say, Chabad are some hippies over here. He wrote a Shulchan Aruch, a Goy Nadir. He also writes the Tanya. This is like the most revolutionary book of Chassidus. And who was the Alter Rebbe's Chassidim? The Alter Rebbe's Chassidim, these are Chabad, this is Roish, these are the heads. These are the most brilliant Chassidim. These are the people, Bali Avodah, on the highest level. They could have all been Rebbes on their own, but they were bottled, they had a Rebbe. And then the middle, then the Tzemach Tzedek, do you know what we're talking about? The whole world, Chassidim, non-Chassidim, everybody recognizes the unbelievable genius and the contribution of the Tzemach Tzedek. And what happened? From all the Talmidei HaMagid, who took the brunt for Chassidus? Who was the one who had to have Mesiras Nefesh from all the Chassidish Kreisen? Who was the one who laid his neck on the line for Chassidus to survive? Dafke the Alter Rebbe. Who fought the Haskalah movement, the Enlightenment movement? Take a look, read the Tzemach Tzedek and the Haskalah, the powerful battle that Tzemach Tzedek fought. Let's go back to the generation, just the generation, the Friediger Rebbe's generation, when Russia, when all the horrible decree of the Soviets, when like a powerful crocodile clamped shut on its prey, so the Russians grabbed, the Russians wanted to completely destroy and completely annihilate any trace of Yiddishkeit. Who stood up? Most people ran away. Most people were intimidated. Most people were scared. It was the Friediger Rebbe with an unbelievable strength, beyond human strength. And Lubavitcher Chassidim. We are the inheritors of hundreds of years of the biggest Mesiras Nefesh. Then we were the ones who fought assimilation. And the rest of the Jewish people copies us. In everything Lubavitch did. In every single thing. We were the pioneers in every element. We're not little Chvei coming out of nowhere. So someone laughs, someone makes a comment, someone drays with the news. Who are you? What did you do for the Jewish people? What did you do for the furtherance, for the triumph of holiness in the world? The only problem you have, most people, the only problem is they forgot to do a download, which was downloadable. It was an app or a new document was downloadable 250 years ago. They were supposed to download Tanya. They were supposed to download Chassidus, so they would open up their minds to start thinking the way, having the understanding, like to have a deep understanding of Machshavas HaYahadus, to understand what Judaism is all about, to understand the kivun, the direction of what Yiddishkeit is all about. Once you know that, it's very dangerous. Everybody knows it's dangerous. You do that, you become a Lubavitcher. That's the problem. So people are scared of that, so they don't want to do it. But do it. Do it, learn it, and it'll fill you with incredible knowledge and understanding. You'll appreciate Moshiach. You'll appreciate the whole purpose of creation. So we're so afraid because Yenevet Zagner, who cares already? It's already time, especially, let me add just, I'm going to conclude. I have to conclude, getting a little late. So it's very important to understand and to appreciate. When Moshe Rabbeinu came to Mitzrayim, Moshe Rabbeinu was also not accepted, I promise you that. The first time, first of all, he had a very, very weird. He wasn't raised in a nice Hamish house. He was raised in the palace. Then he came back with a wife. He didn't come back with her, but they know he got married. Okay, she's a Bas Yisroi. She's the daughter of the Galach of the Pope. Not exactly this nicest shidduch. He comes over, he's not here. He was a prince in Paris Palace. The whole guy's an outsider. They know he has a psichos, fine. Did we speak on who Mashiach is? Did the Yidden know? I don't know if they spoke, but one thing is for sure. Even if it needed to be hushed, once we were holding already by Makas Shchin, Makas Barad, Makas Choshech, once we were holding already by the 7th, 8th Makkah, is there any virtue anymore to still hush? We don't know. We don't talk about who Mashiach is. What's new? What's happening in the world? What's happening in the world is everything changed in the last couple of months. The whole world is turning over. Now, there's a thought that I was going to tell you earlier. The Rebbe says it's Mashiach's job to win. to overcome all these forces. So if you have a father or an adult and a child, they're having a hand wrestle. And, you put it on there and you see who's going to beat. And the child sometimes, the father lets the child push his hand down, 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 almost to the end, but, And then in the end, whoops, he pushes the whole thing over on the other end. So the Rebbe allowed these forces of dark, for whatever, I don't want to say he allowed, for whatever reason it was decreed darkness came on the world, they triumphed, chas v'shalom. They were chas v'shalom bringing such a choshech, such a darkness, and they brought such tumas, such impurity in every aspect. It's not just Israel, it's in all aspects. And a total breakdown of morality, and so anything unholy in the world they stood for. And they almost won. They were around inches away of finally winning the battle. They were popping their champagne bottles already. They were sure they won. And then at the last second, boom, everything turned over. Whatever we've seen happening in the last year, we know clearly who's making it happen. The only one who spoke about it, take a look in the Sichos. You'll see the Rebbe spoke about it. So we know who made it happen. We know what's going on. It's about time that we take off, we stop being ashamed, we start being comfortable ourselves. And now I want to say something very, very, very important. Just to conclude, see? I was going to say it anyways, but thank you. When the Jewish people, when you're in a relationship with the Eibishter, you can never get stuck. It's very hard to get into a relationship with God because we're finite and He's infinite. So you get connected and He tells you to live a certain way and so on and so forth. But on the moment you get comfortable, He wants you to break out of those boundaries and do something else. And we, right away, as the nature of who we are, we like to cement ourselves and get stuck in something. So for instance, we went out of Mitzrayim, and first they didn't want to go out of Mitzrayim. We already built all the moistus in Mitzrayim, right? We had already Shemer, come on, it's a yeshiva over here. We've built so much. Who wants to go out of Golos? We have such a, sure by that time, that's a nice kosher restaurants as well. And now they want to go. They wanted to stay. Moshe Rabbeinu says we have to go. So he pushed them out. The Yidden went out of Mitzrayim. They come to Har Sinai. They receive the Torah. Now they're all excited. Matan Torah, whoa. And then what? It's time to leave. It's time to go to Eretz Yisrael. What do we have to do in Eretz Yisrael? We have to get physical. No, they don't want physicality. They want to remain learning Torah day and night. So Moshe Rabbeinu has to tell them to go. They don't want to go. You see, with the Eibishter, it's vayaso. You have to be ready to move. You can't get stuck in something. So with the Rebbe, it's the same thing. We conquered one thing, the Rebbe's on to the next. Next, run it. So people a lot of times get stuck. We get stuck with Miftzat Tefillin, like as if that's where it ends. It doesn't end there. You have to do Miftzat Tefillin. You have to do all the Miftzayim, but the Rebbe moved us to the next stage, and the next stage, and the next stage. Now, who are the ones that are usually the Chachamim who have a hard time moving and kind of have doubts, Koirach and that whole, who are the ones? For some odd reason, it was always the men, never the women. If you want to know, when it comes to Emunah, who is right, where is it at, ask the women, because the women don't make a mistake. For some reasons, the women's neshamas are plugged in a way that is unshakable. So if we look in Chabad and we wonder, we look in Lubavitch and we wonder what's up, we see the women are steadfast, they're strong, and the women need to lead the men to the Geulah. And it's going to be that way. But the women, take a look, even those that, they don't know, herahin, but not with the ladies. It's amazing. At least I would say most of Chabad women are far more, what we say, Moshiach-oriented, and far amunah, because ladies, they vase in the remes. So if we say, I say this to all the men, it's mistakes, we can't, we chas v'shalom, we don't want to chas v'shalom appear, everybody, the Rebbe is infinitely kind. And, I tell people, say, the Moshiach, I say, you're lucky if he's Moshiach. The nicest Moshiach you could have ever had. He's not going to punish anybody. He's not going to, some people have an idea of Moshiach. Moshiach will come, and you looked at something, he's going to poke your eyes out. You're going to chop the fingers. I've gone to school, I'm telling you, from the schools. They hack these girls with such things, as if there's going to be some major Taliban movement after Moshiach comes. And who knows what we're going to do. The Rebbe is like, wow, he loves everybody. And he'll bring every single Jew. No Jew left behind. No one. Everybody's going to say Moshe Emes v'Torah Emes. After Mashiach comes, everybody. But not from Chas v'Shalom under the ground. Everybody's going to say, but why do we have to be ashamed? Why do we have to be embarrassed? Why shouldn't we recognize if it's Hallelu Hashem Kol Goyim, if the whole world is already going to the Geula, if everything is already marching to the Geula, why should we be ashamed? You think I'm comfortable? Think I like this? I don't. I'm just going to tell you a little story just to show you that I'm not this, Meshuggah extremist who just likes to. Last week I was by a wedding. Shmuley Shapiro got married in Los Angeles. Rabbi Nachman Shapiro, son, right? Shmuley got married, and we were by the chasana, by the chuppah. Shmuley grabbed the microphone, and really, he's friends with everybody in Los Angeles, Chassidim, non-Chassidim, Rabbanim from everybody, and I'm standing there, and out of nowhere, no one expected it, he grabbed the microphone, and he gave 3 times Yechi, the whole place was shaking. And I remember, I'll tell you the truth, I became so uncomfortable, I didn't know what to do, where I'm going to hide, open up. Here is like the sin. I myself struggle. I'm uncomfortable. No one wants to be considered. You're a lunatic, yeah? You passed the Gleibsteuchet, So I'm uncomfortable. But for the little silly discomfort, when we know this is emes, when we know it's true, when we know everything the Rebbe told us is nothing. There isn't going to be a half a word that the Rebbe said that's not emes la'amitoy. And the Rebbe said everything. So what is al shel poil? What do we come out of all this? Stama, we should walk around and say, that's not. The point is 2 things. Number 1, it's just like Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people, Hisyatzavu ereu es Yeshuas Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu told the Jewish people, it's not just by Yam Suf, Hashem is going to save you. He said, stand and watch. Look at Yeshuas Hashem. It's important that all of us stand and watch and notice the Geula. The problem is, you can't notice the Geula if you don't know what the Geula is all about. So for that, the Rebbe told us clear words. I'm not telling you anything new. The Rebbe said in Parshas Tazria Mitzayra, Rebbe Oimer, Rebbe says, Rebbe Oimer, the Mishnah, and Rebbe says, he's referring to himself, Rebbe, Eizehu derech yeshara, what is the right way? Sheyivra loy ha'adam, Adam, the Rebbe says, is referring to, is a perfect name of man. It's referring to the last generation, the generation that's perfect already in Yiddishkeit. We are, because we're an accumulation of hundreds of years of Mesiras Nefesh. We are the perfect Jew already. What is our avodah? To hasten the Geula. What is the work? The Rebbe says, Kol shu teferes lo yiseh teferes lo min adam, which means limud in yonei Moshiach u'geula. Learning the matters of Moshiach and Geula. And I mean, the Rebbe didn't mean, you take out and you read a line and you say, Yonei Geula Moshiach after davening, boom. That's nothing. It means to sit, to study, to learn, to allow these teachings to permeate your mind, your entire hashkafa, the way you're looking at life, the way you look at everything around. Then you see. I started doing this 3 years ago. I haven't been doing it. So I had a munah. We all have a munah. Who doesn't have a munah? Everybody in Chabad knows the emes. Problem is we don't have das. We have to take the amunah and connect it to das. Das is when it becomes real. And how do you get connected to das? You connect it to das through learning in Yonei Geula Mashiach. It changes our whole mind around. Yesterday we had a kiddush by Yasin Shul, and it was a woman, someone had a baby, and she was relating. Her husband was relating that the baby was born by Mashiach. So that's when the labor began, and she was having a little bit of a tough labor. And then the midwife. The problem was the baby was in the other. It was turned around. So then it's a whole story, how, whatever, I forgot all the details, but one thing was that the baby flipped over, and then the Leda happened. So the Rebbe is saying, hey, Chaver, we all have to be born. Mashiach is our birth. It's the birth of the Jewish people. We need to flip over. And the only way we flip over is if we start learning. What we need to do right now across Chabad, I know this is watched more than just the audience over here. Every Chabad house, every Chabad Shliach, somehow, first of all himself, he needs to have a chavrusa, all the women. You have to have 10. We should have groups of 10. The Rebbe spoke about a group of 10. We should explode the world with limud in Yonei Mashiach Geula. And what really is most important is learn the sichas every week. But learn it well. Learn it and learn it once, learn it twice. And the moment we open our eyes, the more the reality starts happening in the world. It's infectious. It's exciting. You speak to other people. You bring awareness. Suddenly, the more awareness happens, the more we see it, the more geula, the easier Mashiach's job is, and the easier is the birth to finally happen. And this is no joke. This is the ultimate purpose of all of creation. This is what we were all created. This is all of Yiddishkeit. All of Yiddishkeit is for this matara. We can't cop out. We can't chas v'shalom drop the ball when we're holding right at the end, at the line. We're ready to slide into home plate. To drop at that moment, I quit. Oh, I don't know what happened. I mean, this is ridiculous. So right now we have, and the Rebbe told it to us. So whether you're a Chabad rabbi somewhere, you should make, when you can, you don't have 10 people to, other shluchim, on the phone, make a conference. Let's learn. Learn and learn and learn. And when we learn, this will change everything. So all of us should make a hachlata, especially the women, because women lead the men. Those women that are not yet part of a shir in Yonah Geulah Moshiach, start learning it and open up, and we'll open up our eyes, all of us together, and then I'm sure you're going to have way, way better insights than me. We all are sharing this together. We're all going to find the Rebbe opens up our eyes, but we have to allow him to do so by allowing his teachings to permeate our mind, our thought, and our entire experience. And let me just conclude. Someone sent me, the Rebbe, how did the Rebbe walk out of every Fabrengen? Ki b'simcha seitzeyu. Right? So someone sent me just today as I was flying here, and I opened up after when I landed, I saw the Radak. The Radak says, "V'chol atzei asada," and all the trees, Yimcha Yuchav, are going to clap hands. So the Radak says, when Mashiach will come, Yimcha Yuchav, everybody's going to clap for the Geulah, and they're going to call out, Yechi HaMelech. Radak. Who asked the Radak to write that a few hundred years ago, right? Didn't the Radak know this is controversial? Right? Yechi HaMelech. That's it. So Chevra, Yechi HaMelech. Oh.
With Israel, did you see that? Did you
What?
see Eric Shevet last night?
What?